The Scotch-Irish are a group of people who originated in Scotland, but who later migrated to Ireland, where they developed a distinct cultural and ethnic identity. The Scotch-Irish played an important role in the history of the United States, particularly in the early days of the nation's development. The Scotch-Irish migration to America began in the early 18th century, as many Scots-Irish were pushed out of Ireland due to religious conflicts, lack of political autonomy, and dire economic conditions. These immigrants were attracted to America by the promise of land ownership and greater religious freedom. They brought with them a strong work ethic, education, and skills that helped to shape the early American economy. The Scotch-Irish were a diverse group of people who settled in different regions of America, including Pennsylvania, Virginia, and the Carolinas. They were often farmers, craftsmen, and skilled workers, and they played an important role in developing the agricultural and manufacturing industries of the young nation. One of the most significant contributions of the Scotch-Irish was their role in the American Revolution. They were fiercely independent and passionate about their rights, and they played a key role in the fight for American independence. Many Scotch-Irish soldiers fought in the Continental Army, and several important leaders of the Revolution, including Andrew Jackson and Patrick Henry, were of Scotch-Irish descent. The Scotch-Irish also played an important role in the development of American culture. They brought with them a love of music and storytelling, and they helped to shape the cultural traditions of Appalachia and the South. Despite their many contributions, the Scotch-Irish faced discrimination and prejudice in America. They were often looked down upon by other groups and were sometimes subject to violence and abuse. However, they persevered, and their legacy can be seen in the many contributions they made to the development of the United States. The Scotch-Irish migration to America was a complex and multifaceted process that spanned several decades and involved a wide range of social, economic, and political factors. While religious conflicts, lack of political autonomy, and dire economic conditions were certainly important push factors, there were also other factors that contributed to the Scotch-Irish decision to leave Ireland and migrate to America. One important factor was land ownership. In Ireland, land was often held by wealthy landlords, and the vast majority of the population was either tenant farmers or landless laborers. This system created a great deal of social and economic inequality, and it was particularly hard on the Scotch-Irish, who were often marginalized and excluded from the landowning class. In America, however, land was often available for purchase or homesteading, which made it possible for the Scotch-Irish to acquire their own land and become independent farmers. Another important factor was the promise of greater religious freedom. In Ireland, the Scotch-Irish were often discriminated against for their Presbyterian beliefs, which put them at odds with the dominant Anglican Church. In America, however, there was greater religious tolerance, which made it possible for the Scotch-Irish to practice their faith more freely and openly. The Scotch-Irish migration to America began in the early 18th century, and it continued well into the 19th century. During this time, the Scotch-Irish settled in a wide range of regions across the United States, including Pennsylvania, Virginia, and the Carolinas. In each of these regions, the Scotch-Irish played an important role in shaping the local culture and economy. In Pennsylvania, for example, the Scotch-Irish were instrumental in developing the iron industry. They brought with them the knowledge and skills necessary to mine and smelt iron ore, and they helped to turn Pennsylvania into one of the most important iron-producing regions in the world. They also played a key role in developing the state's agricultural industry, particularly in the western regions of the state. In Virginia, the Scotch-Irish were important pioneers who helped to settle the western frontier. They were often the first settlers to arrive in new territories, and they played an important role in establishing communities and building infrastructure. They also played a key role in the American Revolution, with many Scotch-Irish soldiers fighting in the Continental Army. In the Carolinas, the Scotch-Irish were important farmers and artisans who helped to develop the region's agricultural and manufacturing industries. They were particularly influential in the development of the textile industry, which would become one of the most important industries in the South in the 19th century. Despite their many contributions to American society, the Scotch-Irish faced significant discrimination and prejudice. They were often looked down upon by other groups, who saw them as rough, uncivilized, and uncultured. They were also sometimes subject to violence and abuse, particularly during times of social and economic upheaval. One of the most significant examples of Scotch-Irish discrimination was the Whiskey Rebellion of 1791 to 1794. This rebellion was a response to a federal tax on whiskey, which was seen as unfairly targeting small-scale whiskey producers, many of whom were of Scotch-Irish descent. The rebellion was led by several prominent Scotch-Irish leaders, including James McFarlane and John Mitchell, and it was eventually suppressed by the federal government. Despite these challenges, the Scotch-Irish persevered, and their contributions to American society can still be seen today. Their legacy can be seen in the many cultural traditions that they helped to establish, including music, dance, and storytelling. It can also be seen in the many industries and institutions that they helped to build, from the iron industry in Pennsylvania to the textile industry in the South. America was a complex and significant process that helped to shape the social, economic, and cultural landscape of the United States. While the Scotch-Irish faced many challenges and obstacles, they were also able to overcome these difficulties and establish themselves as an important part of American society. One of the key ways in which the Scotch-Irish contributed to American society was through their participation in the American Revolution. Many Scotch-Irish soldiers fought in the Continental Army, and their contributions helped to secure American independence from Great Britain. Some of the most notable Scotch-Irish soldiers included Andrew Pickens, Francis Marion, and William Campbell, who played important roles in the battles of Cowpens, Guilford Courthouse, and Kings Mountain. The Scotch-Irish also played an important role in the development of American politics. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants became involved in politics at the local, state, and national levels, and they helped to shape the political landscape of the United States. Some of the most notable Scotch-Irish politicians include Andrew Jackson, James Buchanan, and Thomas Hart Benton, who all served as presidents, senators, or congressmen. In addition to their contributions to politics and the military, the Scotch-Irish also had a significant impact on American culture. They brought with them a rich cultural heritage that included music, dance, storytelling, and folk traditions. These cultural traditions helped to shape American music and literature, and they continue to influence American culture to this day. One of the most significant contributions of the Scotch-Irish to American culture was their music. The Scotch-Irish brought with them a rich tradition of folk music that included ballads, reels, and jigs. These musical styles were particularly influential in the development of American country music, and they helped to establish many of the musical forms and themes that are still popular in American music today. Another important aspect of Scotch-Irish culture was their love of storytelling. The Scotch-Irish had a rich tradition of oral storytelling that included myths, legends, and ghost stories. These stories were often passed down from generation to generation, and they helped to preserve the cultural heritage of the Scotch-Irish in America. In addition to their cultural contributions, the Scotch-Irish also played an important role in the development of American education. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants were educated and literate, and they helped to establish schools and educational institutions throughout the United States. They believed that education was essential for social and economic mobility, and they worked hard to ensure that their children had access to quality education. Despite their many contributions to American society, the Scotch-Irish also faced significant challenges and obstacles. They were often discriminated against and marginalized by other groups, particularly in the early years of their migration to America. They were seen as rough and uncivilized, and they were often excluded from political and economic power. One of the most significant examples of Scotch-Irish discrimination was the Know Nothing Party of the mid-19th century. This political party was strongly opposed to immigration, and it specifically targeted Irish and Scotch-Irish immigrants for discrimination. The party was particularly influential in the Northeast, where it gained significant political power and was able to pass laws and policies that targeted immigrant communities. Despite these challenges, the Scotch-Irish persevered and established themselves as an important part of American society. Their legacy can still be seen today in the many cultural, political, and economic institutions that they helped to establish. They played an important role in shaping American history, and their contributions continue to be celebrated and honored today. One of the most significant challenges that the Scotch-Irish faced was the issue of slavery. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants owned slaves, and they played a significant role in the institution of slavery in the United States. While some Scotch-Irish immigrants opposed slavery and fought for its abolition, many others were deeply invested in the institution and believed that it was essential for the economic success of the United States. The issue of slavery was particularly contentious in the Scotch-Irish stronghold of the South. The South was heavily dependent on slavery for its economic success, and many Scotch-Irish immigrants played key roles in the slave trade and the plantation economy. As tensions over slavery increased in the years leading up to the Civil War, many Scotch-Irish Southerners became vocal defenders of slavery and secession. Despite these challenges, many Scotch-Irish immigrants remained committed to the values of democracy, liberty, and equality that they had brought with them from Ireland. They believed that every person should have the right to self-government, religious freedom, and economic opportunity, and they worked hard to promote these values throughout American society. One of the most significant ways in which the Scotch-Irish promoted these values was through their involvement in the Presbyterian Church. The Presbyterian Church was particularly influential among the Scotch-Irish, and it played a key role in shaping their religious, political, and cultural beliefs. The Scotch-Irish Presbyterian Church was characterized by its emphasis on individual freedom, democratic governance, and social justice, and these values helped to shape the broader Scotch-Irish ethos in America. The Scotch-Irish also played an important role in the development of American agriculture. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants were skilled farmers, and they brought with them a deep knowledge of agricultural practices that helped to transform American agriculture. They introduced new crops, such as corn and potatoes, and they developed new farming techniques that helped to increase yields and improve soil fertility. In addition to their contributions to agriculture, the Scotch-Irish also played a key role in the development of American industry. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants were skilled craftsmen, and they helped to establish the early manufacturing industries that would become a cornerstone of American economic success. Scotch-Irish immigrants played important roles in industries such as textiles, ironworking, and shipbuilding, and they helped to establish many of the early industrial centers of America. The Scotch-Irish also played an important role in the development of American education. They believed that education was essential for social and economic mobility, and they worked hard to establish schools and educational institutions throughout the United States. Scotch-Irish immigrants helped to establish many of the early colleges and universities in America, including Princeton, Columbia, and Rutgers. Despite their many contributions, the Scotch-Irish also faced significant challenges and setbacks in America. They were often the victims of discrimination and marginalization, particularly in the early years of their migration. They were seen as outsiders and were often excluded from political and economic power. In addition, they faced significant cultural barriers, as they struggled to adapt to the new social and cultural environment of America. Despite these challenges, the Scotch-Irish persevered and established themselves as an important part of American society. Their legacy can still be seen today in the many cultural, political, and economic institutions that they helped to establish. They played an important role in shaping American history, and their contributions continue to be celebrated and honored today. One of the lasting legacies of the Scotch-Irish in America is their influence on American culture. The Scotch-Irish brought with them a rich cultural heritage that has had a lasting impact on American music, literature, and art. Scotch-Irish music, for example, played a key role in the development of American folk music, and many of the traditional songs and melodies that originated in Scotland and Ireland have become part of the broader American musical canon. In addition to their influence on music, the Scotch-Irish have also played a key role in shaping American literature. Many of America's most celebrated writers, such as William Faulkner, Flannery O'Connor, and James Joyce, have Scotch-Irish roots. The Scotch-Irish literary tradition is characterized by its focus on themes of family, community, and social justice, and these themes continue to resonate with American readers today. The Scotch-Irish also made important contributions to American art, particularly in the field of folk art. The Scotch-Irish tradition of creating handmade crafts, such as quilts, pottery, and wood carvings, helped to establish a rich tradition of American folk art that continues to inspire artists today. Despite their contributions to American culture, the Scotch-Irish have also faced criticism for their role in American history. Some have criticized the Scotch-Irish for their involvement in the slave trade and their support for segregation and discrimination. Others have criticized their religious beliefs and their opposition to certain aspects of American culture. Despite these criticisms, the Scotch-Irish continue to be an important part of American society, and their contributions continue to be celebrated and honored. In recent years, there has been a growing recognition of the importance of the Scotch-Irish in American history, and efforts have been made to preserve and celebrate their cultural heritage. One of the most important ways in which the Scotch-Irish legacy is being preserved is through the establishment of Scotch-Irish heritage sites and museums. These sites and museums provide visitors with a glimpse into the lives and experiences of Scotch-Irish immigrants in America, and they help to preserve and celebrate the rich cultural heritage of the Scotch-Irish. Another important way in which the Scotch-Irish legacy is being preserved is through genealogy and family history research. Many people of Scotch-Irish descent are interested in tracing their family histories and learning more about their ancestral roots. This research helps to connect people with their cultural heritage and provides them with a sense of pride and belonging. In addition to these efforts, there has also been a growing recognition of the importance of the Scotch-Irish in American politics. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants played important roles in American political history, and their legacy can be seen in the political institutions and traditions that they helped to establish. Scotch-Irish Americans have made significant contributions to American political thought, and their commitment to democracy, liberty, and individual rights continues to shape American political discourse today. Another important aspect of the Scotch-Irish legacy in America is their impact on American religion. The Scotch-Irish immigrants brought with them a strong Presbyterian tradition, and they played a key role in the growth and development of the Presbyterian Church in America. The Scotch-Irish also contributed to the development of other religious traditions in America, including the Baptist and Methodist churches. One of the most significant contributions that the Scotch-Irish made to American religion was their emphasis on individual religious freedom and autonomy. In Scotland and Ireland, the Presbyterian Church was known for its rejection of religious hierarchy and its emphasis on the importance of individual faith and interpretation of Scripture. This emphasis on individual religious freedom was a key factor in the Scotch-Irish migration to America, where they sought greater religious freedom and autonomy than they had experienced in their homelands. In America, the Scotch-Irish continued to promote this emphasis on individual religious freedom and autonomy, and their influence can be seen in the development of American religious institutions and traditions. The Presbyterian Church in America, for example, became known for its emphasis on the importance of individual faith and interpretation of Scripture, and this emphasis on individual autonomy continues to be a defining characteristic of American Presbyterianism. The Scotch-Irish also played a key role in the development of American education. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants were well educated and had a strong commitment to education and intellectual inquiry. In America, they established numerous schools and colleges, including Princeton University, which was founded by Scotch-Irish Presbyterians in 1746. The Scotch-Irish commitment to education and intellectual inquiry helped to establish a strong tradition of American education, which continues to be a defining characteristic of American culture. The Scotch-Irish also contributed to the development of American intellectual life through their involvement in journalism and publishing. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants established newspapers and other publications, which helped to shape public opinion and discourse in America. Another important aspect of the Scotch-Irish legacy in America is their impact on American agriculture and industry. The Scotch-Irish immigrants brought with them a strong tradition of farming and agricultural innovation, and they played a key role in the growth and development of American agriculture. The Scotch-Irish also contributed to the development of American industry, particularly in the areas of textiles and iron manufacturing. The Scotch-Irish legacy in America is also characterized by their commitment to civic engagement and public service. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants played important roles in American politics, and their commitment to democracy and individual rights helped to shape American political institutions and traditions. The Scotch-Irish also contributed to the development of American civic life through their involvement in community organizations, volunteerism, and philanthropy. Despite their many contributions to American society, the Scotch-Irish also faced significant challenges and discrimination in America. They were often viewed with suspicion and mistrust by other groups, and they faced discrimination and prejudice in many aspects of American life, including employment, housing, and education. Despite these challenges, the Scotch-Irish persevered and established themselves as an important part of American society. Their contributions to American culture, religion, education, agriculture, industry, and civic life continue to be celebrated and honored today. Another way in which the Scotch-Irish have left their mark on American culture is through their impact on American cuisine. The Scotch-Irish brought with them a rich culinary tradition that has had a lasting impact on American cuisine, particularly in the American South. Many Southern dishes, such as cornbread, fried chicken, and collard greens, have their roots in Scotch-Irish cooking. The Scotch-Irish also played an important role in the development of American education. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants were highly educated and valued the importance of education in their communities. As a result, they established schools and universities throughout the country, including many of the nation's most prestigious institutions of higher learning. Today, Scotch-Irish Americans continue to be leaders in the field of education, and their commitment to academic excellence continues to shape American education. Despite their many contributions to American society, the Scotch-Irish have faced challenges and discrimination throughout their history in America. Like many immigrant groups, the Scotch-Irish faced discrimination and prejudice from the wider American society, particularly during periods of economic hardship and social unrest. They were often stereotyped as being uncivilized and uncultured, and they were frequently subjected to violence and intimidation. The Scotch-Irish also faced challenges in maintaining their cultural identity in America. Many Scotch-Irish immigrants were forced to assimilate into American culture and abandon their traditional ways of life in order to succeed in their new country. This process of assimilation often meant losing touch with their ancestral roots and cultural traditions, and many Scotch-Irish Americans today struggle to connect with their cultural heritage. Despite these challenges, the Scotch-Irish have persevered and established themselves as an important part of American society. They have contributed to American culture, education, politics, and cuisine, and their legacy continues to be celebrated and honored today. Through efforts to preserve their cultural heritage and connect with their ancestral roots, Scotch-Irish Americans are ensuring that their legacy will continue to be felt for generations to come. Today, there are millions of Americans who trace their ancestry back to the Scotch-Irish. They can be found in all corners of the country, from the hills of Appalachia to the streets of New York City. Scotch-Irish Americans continue to make important contributions to American society, and their legacy continues to shape the character and identity of America. In recent years, there has been a renewed interest in the Scotch-Irish heritage, particularly among younger generations of Americans. Many people of Scotch-Irish descent are exploring their ancestral roots and seeking to connect with their cultural heritage. This interest has led to a resurgence in Scotch-Irish culture and traditions, and efforts are being made to preserve and celebrate the rich history and traditions of the Scotch-Irish in America. Once upon a time, in a small village in Ireland, there lived a man named Liam. Liam was born to Irish parents, but he had fair skin and light hair, which made him stand out in his community. Liam's parents were poor farmers, and they struggled to make ends meet, which meant that Liam did not have the typical privileges associated with being a white person. As a result, he was often looked down upon by the normal white people in his village, who were mostly Anglo-Saxons of English, French, and German descent. One day, while Liam was walking through the village, he overheard some of his Anglo-Saxon neighbors referring to him and his fellow Irish as white Nigers. Liam was shocked and hurt by their words. He had always known that he was different, but he never thought that his own neighbors would stoop so low as to use such a derogatory term to describe him and his people. Liam decided that he could no longer tolerate this kind of treatment, and he began to speak out against it. He organized protests and spoke to his neighbors about the harm that their words were causing. At first, many of them dismissed him as a troublemaker, but Liam was determined to make them see the error of their ways. Slowly but surely, Liam's message began to resonate with more and more people in the village. They began to see that their actions and words were hurtful and wrong, and they started to change their behavior. Liam even gained some unexpected allies, including some of the Anglo-Saxons who had once looked down on him. Over time, the village became a more inclusive and welcoming place for all of its residents, regardless of their skin color or ethnicity. Liam was proud of the progress that they had made, but he knew that there was still work to be done. He continued to advocate for equality and acceptance, and he hoped that his village would serve as an example for others to follow. As time went on, Liam's message began to spread beyond his village. People from neighboring towns and villages heard about the work that he was doing and began to reach out to him for guidance and support. Liam was more than happy to help, and he soon found himself leading a movement for change that extended far beyond his own community. Liam knew that the problem of discrimination and prejudice was not unique to his village or even to Ireland. It was a global issue, and he was determined to do his part to make a difference. He began to travel around the country, speaking at rallies and events, and advocating for change. Through his work, Liam became a well-known figure in Ireland, and people began to recognize him for his dedication to social justice. His message resonated with people from all walks of life, and he inspired countless others to speak out against discrimination and inequality. But with recognition came opposition. There were those who saw Liam's work as a threat to the status quo, and they were determined to stop him by any means necessary. Liam began to receive threats and hate mail, and he was even attacked on a few occasions. But Liam refused to be intimidated. He knew that the work he was doing was too important to be stopped by a few angry individuals. He continued to speak out, even in the face of danger, and his courage inspired others to do the same. As Liam's movement grew, so did the pressure on those in power to take action. Politicians and other leaders began to listen to his message, and some even began to implement policies and programs aimed at promoting equality and combating discrimination. Liam was heartened by the progress that was being made, but he knew that there was still much work to be done. He continued to push for change, even as he faced mounting opposition from those who saw him as a threat to their way of life. Eventually, Liam's tireless efforts paid off. Discrimination and prejudice in Ireland began to decline, and people from all backgrounds were able to live together in peace and harmony. Liam had helped to usher in a new era of equality and justice, and his legacy would be felt for generations to come. As Liam looked back on his life, he was proud of the work that he had done. He knew that it had not been easy, but he also knew that it had been worth it. He had fought for what was right, even when it was unpopular or dangerous, and he had inspired others to do the same. Liam's story is a testament to the power of one person to make a difference. It shows that, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, a single individual can change the world for the better. Liam's message of equality and justice continues to resonate today, and his legacy serves as an inspiration to us all. As Liam continued to push for change, he realized that his work was far from over. While he had made progress in Ireland, he knew that discrimination and inequality still existed in other parts of the world. Liam began to travel beyond Ireland, speaking at conferences and events, and advocating for change on a global scale. Liam's message of equality and justice resonated with people from all over the world. He met with leaders of other social justice movements, sharing his experiences and learning from theirs. He collaborated with human rights organizations, helping to establish networks of activists across continents. As his work continued to expand, Liam became an internationally recognized figure. He was invited to speak at the United Nations, where he addressed the General Assembly on the need for a more equitable world. He also received numerous accolades for his work, including the Nobel Peace Prize. But despite all of his achievements, Liam remained humble and grounded. He knew that his work was far from done, and he continued to push for change until the very end. In his later years, Liam suffered from health problems and had to reduce his travel and public appearances. But even in his quieter moments, Liam remained an advocate for justice and equality. He wrote books and articles, sharing his wisdom and experiences with the next generation of activists. He continued to mentor young people, encouraging them to take up the mantle of social justice and carry on the work that he had begun. When Liam passed away, the world mourned the loss of a great leader and advocate for change. But his legacy lived on. The movements that he had helped to start continued to grow and thrive, and the world became a more equitable and just place because of his work. Today, Liam is remembered as a hero and a visionary. His legacy continues to inspire new generations of activists, who look to him as a model for what can be achieved through hard work, determination, and a commitment to justice. Liam's story is a reminder that one person can make a difference. It is a call to action for all of us, to stand up for what is right and to fight against inequality and injustice in all its forms. We must continue to build on the progress that Liam made, working together to create a better, more equitable world for all. In the rolling green hills of Ireland, a young man named Liam had always felt like an outsider. He was born and raised in Ireland, but his pale skin and blonde hair set him apart from the other locals. They called him an English wasp, a derogatory term for a white person who doesn't have the privileges that come with being a member of the dominant group. Liam had always felt like he was in between worlds. He didn't quite fit in with the Irish locals, who saw him as an outsider, and he didn't fit in with the Anglo-Saxons, who viewed him as inferior. His parents had moved to Ireland when he was young, and he had grown up listening to stories of their struggles to fit in. They had hoped that their son would have an easier time, but it seemed like things were only getting worse. One day, Liam was walking home from school when a group of boys started following him. They were Anglo-Saxons, and they were shouting insults at him. "Hey, white Niger," one of them yelled. "Why don't you go back to where you came from?" Liam tried to ignore them, but they kept getting closer. They were bigger than him, and he knew he wouldn't be able to fight them off. He started to run, but they chased him down and tackled him to the ground. As they held him down, Liam felt a surge of anger and frustration. Why did he have to be treated like this, just because of the color of his skin? He had never done anything to deserve this kind of treatment. But then, something strange happened. The ground beneath him began to tremble, and a bright light filled the sky. Liam felt himself being lifted off the ground, and then everything went dark. When he woke up, he was in a strange room with white walls and blinking lights. There were 3 beings standing around him, and they looked like nothing he had ever seen before. They were tall and thin, with elongated heads and large, black eyes. "Liam," one of them said, in a voice that sounded like a computer. "We have been watching you. We know about the struggles you have faced on this planet." Liam was terrified, but also curious. "Who are you?" he asked. "We are beings from another planet," the creature replied. "We have been observing Earth for a long time, and we have seen the way that your people treat each other. We are here to help." Liam didn't know what to say. He had never believed in aliens before, but here they were, standing right in front of him. "What can you do?" he asked. "We have the power to transport you to another planet," the creature said. "A place where you will be accepted for who you are, no matter the color of your skin or the country you come from." Liam thought about it for a moment. It seemed like a crazy idea, but then again, so did aliens. He looked down at his pale skin and thought about all the times he had been called an English wasp. Maybe it was time for a change. "I'll do it," he said. And with that, the creatures transported him to their planet, where he was welcomed with open arms. They didn't care about his skin color or his background. All they cared about was who he was as a person. Liam realized that he had finally found a place where he belonged. And even though he was millions of miles away from Earth, he knew that he would never forget the struggles he had faced on his home planet. But now, he could look forward to a bright and happy future, surrounded by beings who accepted him for who he was. As Liam settled into his new life on the alien planet, he began to learn more about their society and culture. He discovered that the beings were highly advanced, with technology that far surpassed anything on Earth. They were peaceful and harmonious, living in a society where everyone was equal, regardless of their race or background. Liam found that he fit in well on the alien planet. His intelligence and curiosity were appreciated, and he quickly became friends with many of the beings. He also discovered that his pale skin was not considered unusual or inferior, but simply a unique characteristic of his appearance. As time passed, Liam began to feel a sense of guilt about leaving his home planet behind. He knew that there were many people on Earth who were still facing discrimination and inequality, and he wondered if there was anything he could do to help. He discussed his concerns with his alien friends, and they suggested that he use his experiences to help others. They showed him how to use a device that would allow him to communicate with people on Earth, and Liam began to reach out to others who had faced similar struggles. At first, it was difficult. Many people were skeptical of his story and doubted that aliens even existed. But as he continued to speak out, he began to connect with others who had experienced discrimination and prejudice. He shared his story with them and encouraged them to stand up for their rights. Liam also began to work with organizations that were fighting for equality and justice on Earth. He used his knowledge of the alien society to inspire new ideas and approaches, and he found that many people were receptive to his message. Over time, Liam became a well-known advocate for equality and justice, and his message began to spread around the world. He was interviewed by major news outlets, and he even wrote a book about his experiences. Through it all, Liam remained humble and grateful. He knew that his success was only possible because of the help he had received from the alien beings who had taken him in. He continued to stay in touch with them, and they remained his closest friends and supporters. Years went by, and Liam continued to work tirelessly for the cause of justice and equality. He traveled the world, speaking to groups and working with organizations to make the world a better place. Liam spent many years on the alien planet, learning about their culture and way of life. He was fascinated by their technology, which was far more advanced than anything he had seen on Earth. He made many friends and even fell in love with a woman from the planet. But despite his newfound happiness, he never forgot about his home planet. He often thought about the people he had left behind and wondered if they had ever changed. Had they learned to accept people who were different from them, or were they still stuck in their old ways? One day, Liam received a message from Earth. It was a video message from his parents, who were now elderly and frail. They told him about how much they missed him and how they wished they could see him again. They also told him about the changes that had occurred on Earth in the years since he had left. "We've learned to accept people who are different from us," his father said. "We realize now that everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, no matter where they come from or what they look like." Liam was overjoyed to hear this news. It was everything he had ever wanted for his home planet. He knew that it wouldn't be perfect, but it was a step in the right direction. He decided to go back to Earth and see for himself. The aliens transported him back to his home planet, and he stepped out onto the familiar soil. But everything looked different. The sky was bluer, the grass was greener, and the people looked happier. As he walked through the streets, he saw people of all races and cultures, living and working together in harmony. He saw people who looked like him, and people who looked nothing like him, all treating each other with respect and kindness. Liam was amazed at how much had changed in his absence. He felt a sense of pride for his home planet, and a sense of hope for the future. He went to visit his parents, who were thrilled to see him. They embraced him tightly and cried tears of joy. "We never thought we'd see you again," his mother said. "We're so glad you're back." Liam spent the next few months reconnecting with his family and exploring his home planet. He saw firsthand the progress that had been made in terms of racial and cultural acceptance. But there was still work to be done. Liam knew that there were still pockets of people who clung to old ways of thinking, who saw people who were different from them as inferior. He knew that it would take time and effort to change their minds, but he was willing to do whatever it took. He started giving speeches and writing articles about his experiences on the alien planet, about the importance of accepting people who were different from oneself. His words touched many people, and slowly but surely, the attitudes of the people on his home planet began to change. As Liam settled into his new life on the alien planet, he began to learn more about their culture and way of life. He found that they were a peaceful people who valued diversity and individuality. They had developed advanced technology and had made great strides in science and medicine. Liam was fascinated by everything he saw and experienced on this new planet. He made new friends and learned their language, and even though he was far from his home planet, he felt like he had found a new home. But even as he embraced this new life, Liam couldn't help but think about the struggles he had faced back on Earth. He knew that there were people all over the world who were still being discriminated against because of their skin color or background. He wondered if there was anything he could do to help them. He began to talk to the aliens about his experiences on Earth, and they were fascinated. They had never encountered a planet with such blatant discrimination and inequality. They asked Liam to tell them more, and he shared stories of the racism he had faced, as well as the stories of others he had heard about. The aliens were appalled by what they heard, and they decided to take action. They knew they couldn't solve all of Earth's problems, but they could at least try to help in some small way. They began to send ships to Earth, landing in remote locations and offering their help. They brought with them technology and medical supplies, as well as knowledge and expertise in a variety of fields. They also sent messages of hope and unity, encouraging people to embrace diversity and celebrate differences. At first, their efforts were met with skepticism and distrust. Many people were afraid of the aliens and didn't know what to make of their offers of help. But over time, more and more people began to see that the aliens were genuine in their desire to make a difference. They began to work together, and slowly but surely, things began to change. Liam watched from afar as the world began to transform. He saw people of different races and backgrounds coming together, united by a common goal. He saw the barriers of hatred and discrimination slowly crumbling, replaced by a sense of understanding and empathy. He was proud of what the aliens had accomplished, but he knew that the real work was just beginning. He knew that there were still pockets of resistance and hatred in the world, and that it would take more than just a few alien visitors to bring about lasting change. He decided to return to Earth, to see the changes for himself and to help in any way he could. The aliens were sad to see him go, but they knew that his mission was an important one. When Liam returned to Earth, he was surprised by what he found. The world was a very different place than the one he had left behind. There was still work to be done, of course, but he saw people coming together in ways he had never thought possible. He saw communities that were once divided, now working together for the common good. He also saw that his own experiences as an English WASP had made him more empathetic and understanding of others. He was able to connect with people who had faced discrimination, and he used his experiences to help others understand the importance of diversity and inclusion. Over time, Liam became a powerful voice for change. He spoke at rallies and conferences, sharing his story and encouraging others to stand up against hate and discrimination. He worked with organizations to help bring about systemic change, and he helped to raise awareness about the issues facing marginalized communities. Through his work, Liam was able to make a real difference in the world. He knew that there was still a long way to go, but he was proud of the progress that had been made. He had found a new sense of purpose. As Liam continued to work towards creating a more just and inclusive world, he faced new challenges and obstacles along the way. There were still people who refused to accept others based on their skin color or background, and there were still systems in place that perpetuated inequality and discrimination. But Liam refused to give up. He knew that change was possible, and he was determined to see it through. He worked tirelessly, traveling the world and speaking to anyone who would listen. He wrote books and articles, and he used social media to reach a wider audience. Through his efforts, Liam was able to connect with people from all walks of life. He found allies in unexpected places, and he was encouraged by the support he received from all over the world. He realized that the fight for equality was not one that he had to face alone. One day, as Liam was traveling in a remote part of Africa, he met a group of people who were struggling to make ends meet. They were farmers who had been displaced from their land, and they were facing discrimination and poverty because of their skin color. Liam was moved by their plight, and he knew he had to do something to help. He worked with local organizations to provide the farmers with the resources they needed to thrive. He helped them secure new land, and he taught them new farming techniques that increased their yields. He also worked to educate the local community about the importance of diversity and inclusion, and he encouraged people to come together to build a better future for all. Through his work with the farmers, Liam saw firsthand the power of community and collaboration. He realized that change could only happen if people worked together towards a common goal. He continued to travel the world, sharing his message of hope and unity, and he worked with organizations to create real change on a global scale. As the years went by, Liam saw the world transform in ways he never thought possible. He saw people of different races and backgrounds coming together, united by a shared vision of a better world. He saw new laws and policies put in place that protected the rights of marginalized communities, and he saw new leaders emerge who were committed to creating a more just and equitable society. Through it all, Liam remained committed to his mission. He knew that there was still work to be done, but he was heartened by the progress that had been made. He continued to travel the world, sharing his story and encouraging others to join him in the fight for equality. As he looked back on his life, Liam realized that his experiences as an English WASP had shaped him in ways he never could have imagined. They had given him a unique perspective on the world, and they had fueled his passion for creating a more just and equitable society. He knew that there were still people who would look down on him because of his skin color or background, but he also knew that he had the power to create change. He had learned that diversity was a strength, and that by embracing our differences, we could build a better future for all. As Liam continued to work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable world, he found that he was not alone in his efforts. People from all walks of life began to join him in his mission, inspired by his courage and determination. Together, they formed a powerful movement that worked tirelessly to dismantle systemic barriers and create a world where everyone had the same opportunities and privileges, regardless of their race, gender, or background. Liam found that he was not only helping others, but he was also healing himself. Through his work, he had found a way to come to terms with the discrimination and racism he had faced in his own life. He was able to turn his pain into a force for good, and he found a sense of purpose that he had never experienced before. As he continued on his journey, Liam also began to learn more about the alien race that had helped him in his time of need. He discovered that they had faced their own struggles in the past, and had fought hard to create a society that was based on equality and justice. Liam found himself fascinated by their culture and way of life. He began to study their history and customs, and he found that there was much he could learn from them. He was inspired by their commitment to compassion and empathy, and he vowed to incorporate those values into his own work. Through his interactions with the aliens, Liam also began to develop a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. He realized that, regardless of where we come from or what we look like, we are all part of the same human family. As he worked towards creating a more just world, Liam found that his efforts were having an impact. He saw people from all backgrounds coming together to fight for a common cause, and he knew that change was possible. But he also knew that there was still much work to be done. He saw the injustices that continued to plague the world, and he was determined to keep fighting until everyone had the same opportunities and privileges. Over time, Liam became a respected and influential figure in the global fight for equality. He was invited to speak at conferences and events around the world, and his message of hope and unity inspired countless people to get involved in the movement. Through his work, Liam had become a beacon of light in a world that was often shrouded in darkness. He had shown that one person could make a difference, and he had inspired others to join him in his mission. As he looked back on his journey, Liam knew that he had been given a gift. He had been given the chance to experience a world that was different from his own, and he had been given the tools to make a real difference in the lives of others.